Hi, I'm Jennifer Parker, and this is a story about how appearances can be deceiving, especially when it comes to wealth and family. For 10 years, I lived a simple life while secretly building my real estate empire. But my brother and his wife, they preferred a different approach. Growing up, my brother Tom and I couldn't have been more different. He chased status symbols, expensive cars, designer clothes, luxury vacations. I preferred investing my money, living below my means, and planning for the future. Our parents never took sides, but they worry about both of us for different reasons. "Jen, you need to enjoy life more," Mom would say, watching me clip coupons despite my six-figure income. "You're too young to live like a retired person." Meanwhile, Tom married Sarah, who perfectly matched his love for luxury. Their wedding cost more than most people's houses, complete with ice sculptures and a celebrity performer. I wore a simple dress and contributed what I could to their registry. Sarah's reaction: a barely concealed sneer. "Oh, how practical," she said, holding up the high-end coffee maker I'd given them. "We were hoping for the limited edition gold-plated version, but I suppose this will do." That set the tone for our relationship. While they bought new cars every 2 years and vacationed in exotic locations, I drove my reliable 10-year-old Toyota and invested in properties. Every family gathering became a showcase for their latest purchases and a chance to mock my cheap lifestyle. But what they didn't know was that while they were spending, I was building. Each property I purchased was carefully selected, renovated, and rented out. By the time I turned 35, my real estate portfolio was worth over $20 million. Not that anyone in my family knew. I kept that information strictly private. Then came last month's family dinner, the night everything changed. Tom and Sarah arrived late, as usual, making a grand entrance. "Sorry we're late," Sarah announced, waving her new designer handbag. "We were signing papers for our dream home. You know, that gorgeous Victorian mansion on Maple Avenue." I nearly choked on my water. I knew exactly which house they meant, because I owned it. "It's perfect," Tom added, grinning. 5 bedrooms, pool, garden. Of course, we had to outbid several others. But what's money for if not to get what you want? Mom and Dad beamed with pride. "That's wonderful, son. When do you move in?" "Next month," Sarah said, then turned to me with her trademark smirk. Of course, some people could never understand investing in quality real estate. Right, Jennifer? Still living in that tiny apartment? I stayed quiet, thinking about the property management company that had handled the bidding process, under strict confidentiality, of course. Tom and Sarah had no idea they'd been negotiating with my company. "You know, Jennifer," Sarah continued, warming to her favorite topic, my supposed failings, "you really should start thinking about your future. Live like a poor person, die like one." The table fell uncomfortably silent. Even my parents looked embarrassed by her comment. "I mean," she pressed on, "look at you. Discount store clothes, that ancient car, that tiny apartment. Don't you want more from life? Tom and I believe in living our best life now. That's why we deserve this beautiful house." I smiled slightly, reaching for my purse. About that house. But before I could continue, Sarah interrupted again. "Oh, don't worry, you can visit sometimes, if you wipe your feet carefully. We're installing Italian marble floors, you know." That's when I decided it was time. I pulled out a folder containing the property deed, rental agreement, and my company's documentation. "Actually," I said quietly, "we should probably discuss your rental terms." The next few moments would change everything, but none of them saw it coming. The dining room fell silent as I placed the documents on the table. Sarah's perfectly glossed lips froze mid-sentence as she stared at the property deed bearing my company's name. I don't understand, Tom stuttered, grabbing the papers. This has to be a mistake. We dealt with Wellington Real Estate Group. Yes, you did, I replied calmly, pulling out my business card. Wellington Real Estate Group, President and CEO Jennifer Parker. I started the company 8 years ago. That tiny apartment you love to mock. It's one of 60 properties I own in the city. Sarah's face had turned an interesting shade of pale, her designer lipstick now a stark contrast against her bloodless lips. But that's impossible. You're poor. You shop at discount stores. I couldn't help but laugh softly. Being wealthy doesn't mean you have to waste money, Sarah. While you and Tom were buying new luxury cars every 2 years, I was buying apartment buildings. While you were shopping for designer bags, I was acquiring commercial properties. Dad was staring at the documents, his reading glasses perched on his nose. 20 million in assets? He whispered. Ginny, why didn't you ever tell us? Because, I said gently, I wanted to succeed quietly. No showing off, no bragging, just smart investments and hard work. The same qualities you and Mom taught us, Dad. I just applied them differently than Tom did. Mom had tears in her eyes, but whether from pride or shock, I couldn't tell. Tom was frantically scrolling through his phone, presumably looking up Wellington Real Estate Group. His face grew increasingly pale as he found article after article about the company's success and its mysterious CEO who rarely made public appearances. The rental agreement, he said finally, his voice hoarse. We signed a rental agreement, not a purchase contract. Correct, I confirmed. The house isn't for sale. It's a luxury rental property, as clearly stated in the paperwork you signed. Did you not read it carefully? Sarah jumped up, her chair screeching against the floor. This is a trick. You're trying to ruin our moment. We put down a deposit. Yes, first month's rent and security deposit, I corrected. Standard rental terms. The check cleared this morning, by the way. Thank you for paying on time. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom was the first to break it with an unexpected laugh. All those times you teased her about being cheap, she said to Sarah, my daughter was building an empire. Maybe she should have bought a few designer bags to make it more obvious. Sarah collapsed back into her chair, her perfect posture finally breaking. But what about all our plans? The renovations, the marble floors. Any renovations would need to be approved by the property owner, I said, gesturing to myself. As stated in Section 8 of your lease agreement. But I'd be happy to discuss some reasonable improvements. Tom hadn't spoken for several minutes, still staring at the documents. All these years, he said finally, you let us mock you, call you cheap, look down on you. Why? I took a sip of water, considering my answer carefully. Because I learned something valuable early on, Tom. True wealth isn't about showing off. It's about security, freedom, and making smart choices. You and Sarah were so busy trying to look rich that you never took the time to actually build wealth. So what now? Sarah asked, her voice small. Are you going to evict us? Get your revenge? I shook my head. No, Sarah. Unlike you, I don't believe in humiliating family members. You signed a fair lease. And as long as you follow its terms, you're welcome to stay. The house is beautiful, and I hope you'll be happy there. But I added, pulling out one more document, I did bring your requested changes to the lease. The ones demanding gold-plated fixtures and imported marble floors. I'm afraid those will have to be denied. However, I've approved some reasonable upgrades to the kitchen appliances. The rest of dinner was awkwardly quiet. Sarah barely touched her food, her earlier bravado completely deflated. Tom kept glancing at me like he'd never seen me before. As they were leaving, Sarah paused at the door. I'm sorry, Jennifer, for everything I said. You're not who I thought you were. No, I agreed. I'm not. But maybe that's a lesson worth learning. Success doesn't always wear designer labels. Over the next few months, things changed dramatically. Tom and Sarah moved into the house, but with a new humility. They started taking financial management classes. Sarah even asked me to teach her about investing, though she still can't quite understand why I shop at discount stores. Mom and Dad, they couldn't be prouder, though Dad still shakes his head sometimes and mutters, 20 million, my quiet little girl. These days, when I visit Tom and Sarah's house, my house, technically, there's no more talk about gold-plated fixtures or Italian marble. Instead, Sarah proudly shows me the money she's saving by cooking at home, and Tom consults me before making major purchases. Last week, I received an invitation to speak at a women's business conference. The topic? Stealth wealth. Building success without showing off. I accepted, already planning to use Sarah's designer handbag collection as an object lesson in depreciated assets. As I write this from my tiny apartment overlooking my growing real estate empire, I'm reminded of something my first investment mentor told me. If you have to tell people you're successful, you probably aren't. She was right. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about revealing that you've already won, quietly and completely, while others were too busy showing off to notice. And those Italian marble floors Sarah wanted, well, let's just say the existing hardwood has a lot more character and better resale value.